If you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know that I have always said that the C6 generation of Corvettes has been my favorite. That is, possibly up until now. What's going on, you guys? Riley here. Today we are reviewing this 2016 Corvette Z06 3LZ. So this is pretty much the top of the line Z06 Corvette that you can buy with almost every option. This includes the Z07 option, which includes some extra aero bits and a few other goodies. The only thing I believe that this car is missing would be the carbon fiber package, but pretty much everything else this car has. And the best part is this thing is a 7-speed manual transmission. Between this car right here and the Camaro ZL1, I gotta give it to you, Chevy. You guys know how to make some cars look damn good, and these are probably two of my favorite American-made cars on the market. But I mean, just such a great spec on this car. All black, red brake calipers, the Z07 package. What more could you ask for? But before we get any further in this review, I gotta give a huge shout out to Parkway Chevrolet in Tomball, Texas for providing this car for the review today. But whether you're interested in this car or you're looking to buy maybe a Silverado or a Camaro, hit up Parkway Chevrolet in Tomball, Texas. Ask for David Croft, tell him RPPRODUCTIONS sent you. Now on with the review. Now, I'm sure most of you are pretty familiar with the C7 Z06 by now, but if you are not, and the reason that people buy these things is for this glorious thing right here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is GM's LT4, which is also shared with the ZL1 and the CTS-V. 650 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque with this 6.2 liter supercharged V8. What more could you want with a rear-wheel drive manual car with 650 horsepower? Yep, this thing's gonna be a riot. Now, 0 to 60 times in this car are right about 3.2 seconds with the manual. I believe if you have an auto, you can get it down into the 2.9 second range. So this car is good enough for quarter-mile times in the mid to high 10-second range, kind of depend on how it's equipped and how you do at the drag strip. So as you can probably tell, this car is 100% bone stock down to the same stock air filter. And I just kind of drove it over here to this park to film this intro portion, and I think that I'm really going to like this car. Especially now, considering that the prices are starting to drop on these things. You know, you can find maybe a lesser equipped one for in the low $60,000. I'm not sure. There might be some in the $50,000 for all I know. Now, before we take this car out on the road test, I figured I'd show you guys the interior real quick, which isn't too much different than other Corvettes out on the market. You know, you have nice leather, you have red stitching everywhere, you have a really nice Bose sound system. This is actually one of the best sound systems I've heard in a while. As I said, 7-speed manual, which that's going to be interesting. I don't think I've ever driven anything but a 6-speed manual before, so 7 speeds, that's quite interesting. Then, of course, if you forget, you got a nice little Z06 badge there with some carbon fiber. And then over here, you have a nice badge that says 650 horsepower, 650 torque. And of course, you also have all the goodies like the heads-up display, and you have different features there on the navigation screen, like front cameras, so you can tell how close you are to curbs. There's a bunch of different things that you can play with on that middle screen. And of course, Chevy is kind of known for their little party trick of, you know, hiding stuff back there. And then, nope, there you go, now it's hidden. Lastly, and probably one of the most important things that I have not mentioned about this car would be part of the Z07 package, which also includes these Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires and these massive carbon ceramic brakes. So if you're unfamiliar with these tires, they are basically, you know, barely road legal. Like, these are set up for the track with, you know, turns, not straight line. I mean, these are about as good as it gets for if you were to go to a road course. That is the tire of choice that you want. Also, as I'm sure you can imagine, that's the brake choice that you'd want as well. I mean, look at how big those are. And if you think that's, you know, pretty impressive, take a look at the back ones. That back caliper is bigger than probably 90% of cars on the road's front calipers. I mean, that's insane. Also, not to mention, the rear tires are 335s on this thing, and the front tires are 285s. So it definitely has a nice big footprint going down the road. I noticed on the way here when you're driving, it kind of wants to just follow the grooves, and it's just like ready to go, ready to pounce. But that's probably enough talking about it, guys, from the exterior. So let's go ahead and hop in and take this 650 horsepower beast out for a little spin. what, you guys? Well, the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's take this thing out for a spin. And I'm really excited for this review. Just to give you a little backstory, I've only ridden in a C7 Z06 one time, and that was an automatic. I really liked it, but it didn't feel super like raw. And I've always said that I like C6 Corvettes better because they are more raw. You know, there's less technology in them, and it's usually a more, you know, driver-involving driving experience. To me, the C7 transformation, you know, they've added more technology, they're a lot more advanced now, and that's cool, except for a raw driving experience, I feel like, you know, it's maybe not as much. However, that is only with the base model C7. That base model C7 I did a review on about probably 2 years ago. It was good, but I feel like the Camaro for the money is just as good, so you might as well buy a Camaro. However, I've got very high hopes for the Z06 here. This is GM's baby, you know, aside from the ZR1. This is like their prized possession and what they want to, you know, use to represent their like flagship model, besides the ZR1. But the rumor has it, with the mid-engine C8 Corvette coming out in the next, who knows when, that this is going to be the last generation of manual Corvettes. Which, if that is true, then this Corvette will hold a very special place in a lot of people's hearts. So setting off on one of my favorite roads that's nice and, you know, twisty, I have a feeling this car is going to feel right at home here. And just immediately right off the bat, this is probably one of the best handling cars I have ever driven. And of course, you're on the Michelin Cup Sport Cup 2 tires, which is like, they're right at home here in the corners. But there's pretty much no body roll whatsoever. It's very flat and very confidence inspiring, which is good, but it can get you in trouble when you're like, oh yeah, screw it, I can take this corner at 100, and then, you know, that's when stuff doesn't usually go too well. Now, funny enough, we're starting this review off sitting in some traffic, and, you know, this is stop and go traffic, and, you know, surprisingly, it's really comfortable in here. There's a lot of, you know, race cars for the road that aren't very comfortable in stop and go traffic and daily driving situations, but like the clutch is very light in this car. It's very just easy, and we're just kind of putting along, and I have no complaints. I mean, theoretically, you could absolutely daily drive this car, have no issues. And then also, as I mentioned a little earlier, this is my first time driving a manual with anything other than 6 gears. So this is a 7-speed manual transmission, which I kind of still feel like it's a little unnecessary. I think they would have been just fine putting the 6-speed manual from the ZL1 Camaro in this car. The 7 speeds is a little overkill, and I mean, I guess it's fine, you know, for highway driving, you get better fuel economy and all that fun stuff. But on the downside of that, it kind of makes the gearing just weird. Like, it's hard to pick between 3rd and 5th and then 7th. They're all like right next to each other, and it just, you know, you get so used to driving a 6-speed manual, you know where everything is, and then all of a sudden it's slightly different, and you're like, wait, what? What's going on? And then you do, of course, have the rev matching. So if you hit the paddle, my clutch is in 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd. So I mean, that's pretty cool. And then if you get on it in 2nd, this is probably one of the best sounding engines on the market. If like it's in the top 3 out there. That's, of course, with the exclusion of like supercars and hypercars and all that stuff. But I'm just saying, like, out of affordable cars, it doesn't really get much better than that. Oh my God! Oh man! Oh God! So surprise, everybody! We got Talib in the passenger seat coming along for this drive. He's helping me film this today. Gonna get some flyby shots a little bit later to make this video maybe a little bit more high quality. And that feels pretty good. That feels great. So that was a nice 2nd gear pull from a low RPM, so things didn't get too crazy, and just kind of let the power build on its own. And man, it feels very, very good. And I have to say, you know, if you're going to give me the choice between this car and a Hellcat, I'm going to take this car all day. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. But if you're looking for an all-around performance car for around this, you know, general price range, it doesn't get much better than this. One thing I will say that you kind of miss out on, though, in this car is the supercharger whine, which Hellcats are notorious for. So you kind of miss out on that. You don't really hear it, but you hear a glorious exhaust note. And like I said, it's one of the best ones out there. All right, so let's see how 1st gear is. I've heard 1st gear in this car is like driving a race car with slicks in the rain. So let's see. Pretty good. Oh my God, I love this car. Oh my God. Yo, tell me that does not just sound like a race car. This thing is wild. weighs in about 3,500 pounds, give or take, a little bit more than that actually. So I mean, that's, by Corvette standards, that's a little heavy. You know, C6s used to be down more towards like, I think 31 or 3,200 for a Z06. So yeah, they put on some extra weight, but just everything else about this car is better. It really is, and it kills me to say that because I love the C6 so much. But I mean, the suspension setup is better in this car, the technology is better. It's still to the point where it's raw enough to get you excited and make you feel like, you know, you're doing something dangerous. It's really not all computer and tech. It's hard to put into words. It's a great blend of modern automotive technology and still staying true to its roots of just being a pure American sports car. And I really love that. The C6 ZR1 is a little bit faster on the top end, but honestly, I feel like this actually kind of feels faster. I think partially because this car actually puts the power down. Yeah. When I did the review in the C6 ZR1, it didn't put the power down well at all. Partially because I think those tires were a little bit dry rotted when I did that review. But I mean, the way that it utilizes the power, the way the gearing is in this car, the way the suspension setup is in this car, the good aerodynamics, like everything just works together so well where it just feels right.
If I had the money, I'd daily drive this.
Dude, you could legitimately daily drive this car.
Right now, it's, dude, I mean...
I probably wouldn't daily drive this exact spec, like with these tires, because you're gonna go through tires really quickly, but it's super comfortable. We have it in sport mode, so we could actually switch it over into touring mode. Actually, there's an eco mode. Wow, you could be economical in your Z06. That's different. But like, it's actually really comfortable, you know, just cruising. Like, there's really nothing about this car that holds you back from daily driving it except for depreciation and possibly scraping it on, like, you know, steep inclines, because it is very, very low. But other than that, like, there's no complaints. You can daily drive this totally fine. 30 rolling a Z06, will it hook? Nope.
There's a turn! There's a turn! Oh my, no, sir!
Oh, this feels so right. That is beautiful. Damn, I really want one of these.
Man, take me home.
This is like the most confidence-inspiring car I think I've ever been in. And it's doing all that with ease. Like, yeah, it's not even close to touching the limits.
Other than me being scared.
Yeah, but
I can feel that the car is not wanting to lose brake traction or anything.
And that's the thing with these cars, is that they're literally so good. It almost takes away some of the fun. Because like if we were on this back road, for example, in a Miata, we are flat out really working for it. That's fun. You know, you're really involved. But this car, it's like you're halfway doing stuff, and the car's like, whatever. And it's crazy to think that stuff has advanced so much where you can do stuff like that. The car's like, sure, all right. Is that all you got? I mean, damn, this thing just handles like this is right on par with supercars. And like, for this to be a GM product and a Corvette, like, good job, Chevy. This is very well done. It's a very good balance, though. It's powerful enough to get sideways and squirrely on you, but at the same time, it just maintains a great balance where you can go through the corners and you don't really notice the extra weight. I mean, actually, yeah, you do. Compared to a C6, you do. But being 3,500 pounds, I mean, it's not a super heavy car. It's, you know, it just does everything so damn good.
So the question is, guys.
Yeah, let's place your bets on how long it takes me to buy one of these. Damn. And I would really like to compare this to a Viper, because, you know, as everybody pretty much knows, the Viper is my dream car. That's what I want to buy. But I mean, damn, it's got to be a damn good car to be better than this. So, shoot, I don't know. Good job, Chevy. Good job. So after driving the car for a while longer now, I think I have gotten more used to the 7-speed. I haven't put the car in 7th yet, but as far as going 1st to 6th, I mean, it doesn't feel too bad. I think there's just a little bit of a learning curve to it. But as far as if I were to choose this car or an automatic, get the manual 110%, you've got to have a manual in this car. It just feels right. And I'm sure the auto's, you know, better daily driver, it's faster, I get that. But damn it, there's something about a manual in a Corvette that's rear-wheel drive. I mean, like, it just, this is how this car was intended to be. It just feels good. And one of the other great things about the C7 Z06 is that they really aren't notorious for having any problems aside from the 2015s, which had a little bit of issues with overheating, and so they needed some cooling upgrades. But from 2016 onwards, these cars are stout. Like, there's really not much that goes wrong with them. They're known for being a great, reliable platform that makes a lot of power when you start to modify them. And I mean, it's just a great overall platform. One more time? Why not? You go to 60 at first. Yeah. You get to 60 miles per hour in first gear in this car.
Yeah.
Wow. Good to know. Damn, it just sounds so good. You don't really get any pops and crackles, which is probably the only complaint and the only thing I would change about the exhaust is having some pops and crackles when you're rev matching. Aside from that, this thing's perfect. So guys, I think to pretty much sum up this review, is the C7 Z06 as good as everybody makes it out to be? The answer is yes, 110%. I was never on the C7 Z06 bandwagon. I was kind of like, yeah, whatever, like, you know, it's a nice Corvette. It looks really cool, but I was like, it can't drive that good compared to the base model C7. It drives that good. It is actually a lot better than I was expecting it to be, and dude, I really like this car. So if you are in the market for a Corvette or Camaro, whatever, please hit up Parkway Chevrolet, tell them RP Productions sent you, ask for David Croft. I've got to give a huge shout out to them for providing me with this car and a lot of the other Chevy products that I've reviewed on the channel. So a huge shout out to them. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. I think if I were to go buy a Z06 tomorrow, it would probably be spec'd almost identical to this one. So, I mean, dude, I'm gonna be watching the prices of used Z06s now when they get down into the more affordable range. Shoot, I don't know. I could definitely see myself owning one of these. These are sick. So guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and hopefully this, you know, experience came across on video as it did in person for me and Talib here. I think we both had a pretty fun time driving this thing and seeing what the C7 Z06 is all about. So thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see y'all in the next one. Take it easy.
I'm sorry, man. What is this dude doing? He's got Hellcat badges on his 5.7. Boy!